Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
Good evening and welcome to Spring Global on Western Spring Television. Now the headlines. 9 people die in South Africa after flash floods swept away worshippers taking part in church ceremony. United Kingdom Conservative Party chairman says it is unfair for unions to disrupt people's lives with public sector strikes. Around 10,000 troops surround El Salvador City as part of massive crackdown on gangs. My name is Okweye Muni. 9 people have died in South Africa and 8 are missing after a flash flood in a river swept away worshippers taking part in a church ceremony. An eyewitness said some of the more than 30 congregants were standing on rocks in a river on Saturday when a torrent of water surged through. The pastor was saved after he clung onto an overhanging tree branch as it was being carried away. Rescuers resumed the search of Johannesburg's Jukskei River today. It is notorious for flooding during South Africa's rainy season. The search operation involves the police and fire service as well as specialist aquatic rescue teams. After having recovered 2 bodies yesterday, spokesperson for the City of Johannesburg Emergency Management Services, Robert Malodzi, told reporters that they have so far found 7 more today. The authorities say of 33 who had been at the service, 8 are still unaccounted for. Meanwhile, in Europe, streets have been flooded in the city of Messina on the southern Italian island of Sicily after heavy rains. Footage provided by Italy's fire and rescue service showed flooded areas. It brings memories of October 2009 Messina floods and mudslides, which occurred in Sicily, mainly along the Ionian coast in the province of Messina. That occurrence led to the death of at least 31 people. French President Emmanuel Macron says the West must consider how to address Russia's need for security guarantees if Vladimir Putin agrees to negotiations about ending the war in Ukraine. Mr. Macron, in an interview with French TV, said Europe needs to prepare its future security architecture and how to give guarantees to Russia the day it returns to the negotiating table. He added that the topic will be part of the topics for peace, so Europe needs to prepare what it is ready to do, how it intends to protect its allies and member states. European Union Chief Ursula von der Leyen says that the bloc must act to address distortions created by Washington's $430 billion plan to spur climate-friendly technologies in the United States. According to her, the European Union must take action to rebalance the playing field where the Inflation Reduction Act or other measures create distortions. Ms. von der Leyen said this in a speech at the College of Europe in the Belgian city of Bruges.
So we must take action to rebalance the playing field where the IRA and other measures create distortions. In other words, we need to do our homework here in Europe, and at the same time, we have to work with the United States to mitigate competitive disadvantages.
Elsewhere, the Israeli Air Force says it carried out overnight airstrikes against sites of Islamist movement Hamas in the Gaza Strip after a rocket was fired from the Palestinian enclave towards Israeli territory. The Israeli military said the air raid early this morning targeted a weapons manufacturing facility and an underground tunnel belonging to Hamas. No group has claimed responsibility for the rocket, the first fired in a month, which the Israeli military said landed in an open area near Israel's separation fence yesterday evening without causing casualties or damage to property. The air attack on Gaza follows outrage over the shooting at point-blank range of a young Palestinian man Amar Mufleh, 23, by an Israeli soldier in broad daylight on Friday, which was captured on video. The harrowing footage has sparked widespread anger amongst Palestinians and calls on social media to escalate resistance against the Israeli occupation. The line of control. The line of control, which divides the disputed Kashmir region, Lieutenant General Asim Munir said Pakistan's armed forces are ever ready not only to defend every inch of its motherland, but to take the fight back to the enemy if ever war is imposed on them. Munir, who made the visit days after taking charge of Pakistan's powerful military, said the Indian state will never be able to achieve our nefarious designs. India's foreign ministry is yet to respond to a statement of the new army chief. Both South Asian nuclear powers claim all of Kashmir but govern only part of it. They have fought 2 of the 3 wars over the Himalayan region. In Australia, the federal police today published a video that shows officers in black coverings at Melbourne Airport removing high-profile Islamic State suspect Neil Christopher Prakash from a plane and escorting him across the tarmac to a waiting car. The police charged him with 6 terrorism-related offenses 2 days after he was extradited from Turkey. A 31-year-old man will appear in Melbourne Magistrates Court to face charges. AFP Acting Assistant Commissioner Sandra Boot assured the community that there was no imminent risk to public safety. The United States Navy says it has intercepted a fishing net smuggling more than 50 tons of ammunition, including thousands of rocket fuses and a large amount of propellant for rocket-propelled grenades in the Gulf of Oman. In a statement, the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet said the illicit cargo was discovered during a flag verification boarding on Thursday and was the second major weapons seizure in a month along a maritime route from Iran to war-torn Yemen. The U.S. Navy stated that the direct or indirect supply, sale, or transfer of weapons to the Houthis in Yemen violates UN Security Council Resolution 2022-16 and international law. You are watching Spring Global on Western Spring Television. We'll be right back after this break.
You like a TV station that breaks the barriers of your TV screen. A TV station that brings infotainment to your forefront, breaking the conceptual fourth wall. Giving you television that is personal to you and your everyday life. Indigenous broadcasting for every man, cutting across the shackles of age, class, and language. With the best of equipment in digitized broadcasting. At Western Spring Television, your television experience has never been this magical.
We'll bring you the best in news and programs, breaking news to you as it drops from where it drops.
Talk shows that keep you glued to your seats, sports programs not void of in-depth analysis, entertainment programs cutting across all ages, political analysis with all its accompanying controversies, social responsibility because we care. Western Nigeria gave us our first feel of television. Western Spring Television is taking us to the next level.
Welcome back on Spring Global on Western Spring Television. Now to the rest of the stories. Spokesman to South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa says he will not resign despite a scandal over money stolen from his farm. The row centers on claims he kept large sums of cash on his property, then covered up its theft. The panel of legal experts concluded that he has a case to answer. Today and tomorrow, the top leadership bodies of African National Congress, ANC, are due to meet to decide the party's next steps. But Mr. Ramaphosa's spokesman suggested he would fight on and rather than quit, would seek a second term as leader of his African National Congress party. The panel's findings have been handed to Parliament, which is set to examine them and decide whether or not to launch impeachment proceedings against the president. Mr. Ramaphosa is also under pressure from the opposition, as well as rivals from his governing ANC, to resign. In other news, Iranian and Russian security officials have reportedly met in Tehran to discuss unspecified military cooperation. This is according to official readouts from Iranian state media. The chief of staff of Iran's armed forces, General Mohammad Bagheri, and Russia's Deputy Defense Minister, Colonel General Alexander Fomin, were said to have met in Tehran. The meeting, which is the latest sign of deepening ties between the two countries, might have bordered on the sale of Iranian drones and missiles to Russia for use in Ukraine. In the meantime, Iran's President Ebrahim Raisi says Iran Republican and Islamic foundations are constitutionally entrenched, but there are flexible methods of implementing the constitution. President Raisi stated these in a televised comment, alleging that foreign influence played a huge part in the ongoing unrest in the country. He also revealed that the country had scrapped its morality police more than 2 months of protest triggered by the arrest of Mahsa Amini for allegedly violating the country's strict female dress code. Meanwhile, over 100 people holding sheets of white papers have gathered at Taiwan's Liberty Square to support Chinese anti-zero COVID policy protesters. Those gathered were later asked to write messages on the banner of support for protests in China. One of the first speakers was Li Mingche, the Taiwanese human rights NGO worker who was detained by China for over 5 years. Li was imprisoned on charges of seeking to subvert the state, which was thought to be due to sharing the experience of Taiwan's democratization with Chinese friends. The rally was the third event at Liberty Plaza this week in solidarity with the protest.
Here to support the freedom of expression of all Chinese people. I think it came as a surprise to many people, even people that have been following China closely for years, and also not the fact that it just happened one day, but it kept happening. And of course now we see the Chinese regime with the typical repression hitting back on that and being able to also use all the technological surveillance in order to clamp down on this. So that's why we see less of it. I don't think people's attitude in China have changed. They were fed up in first place with Corona and the draconian restrictions, but also in the second place with a regime where they have no say.
The United Kingdom Conservative Party chairman Nadhim Zahawi says it is unfair for unions to disrupt people's lives with public sector strikes at Christmas. Mr. Zahawi disclosed that there are plans in place to draft in the military to drive ambulances and secure borders if walkouts went ahead. The minister said President Putin's war in Ukraine, which has sent energy costs soaring, was the main driver of rising prices and pressure on pay. Thousands of workers from various UK industries are set to strike this month in disputes over pay and conditions. Some unions, including those in the health and transport sectors, say pay should match the cost of living, which is increasing at its fastest rate in 40 years, largely as a result of rising food and energy prices. Indonesia's Mount Semeru erupts and spews hot ash clouds a mile into the sky, prompting authorities to raise the volcano's alert status to the highest level. The eruption of the highest mountain in Indonesia's main island of Java, around 800 kilometers southeast of capital Jakarta, sparked evacuations of nearby villages. Indonesia's Disaster Mitigation Agency, BNPB, warned residents living near Mount Semeru in East Java province not to conduct any activities within 4.9 miles of the volcano and to keep away from riversides in the area due to risk of lava flow. The agency said it has raised the volcano's alert status to the highest level. El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele has announced that around 10,000 troops have surrounded the city of Soyapango as part of a massive crackdown on gangs. All roads leading to the city have been blocked and special forces have been searching houses for gang members. Officers have also been stopping everyone attempting to leave the city and checking identity papers. The operation is part of a massive crackdown on gangs after a surge in violence earlier this year. The Justice Minister said 12 people had been arrested so far. A Saudi-led OPEC oil cartel and allied producing countries, including Russia, are expected to decide how much oil to supply to the global economy amidst weakening demand in China and G7 price cap on Russia oil. The 23-country OPEC Plus alliance is scheduled to meet today, a day ahead of the planned start of a European Union boycott of most Russian oil and a $60 per barrel price cap on Russian exports imposed by the EU and G7. There is rising uncertainty about the impact of new Western sanctions against Russia that could take significant amounts of oil off the market. And now to the world of sports. Senegal head coach Aliou Cissé could miss the Teranga Lions round of 16 World Cup clash with England through illness. Cissé was absent for his news conference ahead of today's knockout tie with his assistant Regis Bogaert instead taking media duties. Bogaert said Cissé has been unwell for a number of days and has not been able to take training ahead of the match against the Three Lions. Cissé, who was appointed head coach of Senegal in 2015, guided the side to their second Africa Cup of Nations final in 2019 before winning the tournament in 2022 in Cameroon. And now to boxing. Tyson Fury said 2023 would be the biggest year of his career as Britain looked to unify boxing's fractured heavyweight division. Fury, unbeaten as a professional, retained his WBC version of the title with a 10th round stoppage of Derek Chisora, the third time he had defeated his compatriot. The 34-year-old was in complete command from the opening bell, with large parts of the fight resembling a sparring session, showing the dominance of a self-styled Gypsy King. Alexander Usyk, the holder of the IBF, WBA and WBO heavyweight titles, was among a crowd of nearly 60,000 on a bitterly cold night at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in North London.
And I got to commend him. I got to tip my hat to Derek Chisora because he's an absolute warrior, and he took a lot of heavy punches. Maybe they left him in too long, but I was very happy when the referee stopped it. He took enough, you know what I mean? He was tired and shipping a lot of heavy blows, and we're not in there to do serious damage to each other. It's a boxing match, and I was happy to see it finished. So yeah, big shout out to Derek Chisora as well.
Before we end the Spring Global, here's a recap of our top stories. 9 people have died in South Africa and 8 are missing after a flash flood in a river swept away worshippers taking part in a church ceremony. The United Kingdom Conservative Party Chairman Nadhim Zahawi says it is unfair for unions to disrupt people's lives with public sector strikes at Christmas. El Salvador President Nayib Bukele has announced that around 10,000 troops have surrounded the city of Soyapango as part of a massive crackdown on gangs. You can follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. I am Okpayamuni. Thanks for watching.